bem-vindos. É um enorme prazer para nós recebermos-vos neste webinar, porque acreditamos ter aqui mensagens muito interessantes para passar de um momento histórico de disponibilização pioneira de uma infraestrutura de Edge Computing, AWS Outpost, na Península Ibérica. E desse ponto de vista, conto nesta próxima hora e meia passar aqui por vários pontos desta proposta de valor que acredito serem bastante úteis para as nossas empresas e o nosso tecido empresarial. Eu chamo-me Tiago Ribeiro, sou responsável pelo desenvolvimento de negócio do segmento empresarial da NOS, e já de seguida irei fazer uma pequena introdução à estratégia de cloud híbrida da NOS, mas que, a bem da verdade, passa pela estratégia de transformação digital das organizações e dos desafios associados. Na sequência, teremos o Joaquim Ruiz, responsável pela proposta de valor Outpost, que irá explicar um pouco a estratégia do desenvolvimento desta própria oferta e a transformação que pode trazer para os clientes empresariais. Depois teremos o Rowan Matthews, responsável pela arquitetura Outposts, que irá entrar um pouco em mais detalhe se quisermos, pelo desenho tecnológico da solução, e terminaremos esta sessão com uma conversa entre o Manuel Ramalhianos, administrador da NOS e responsável pelo segmento empresarial, e o Miguel Álava, responsável pela AWS na Península Ibérica, e que vão partilhar connosco e convosco o que é que esta parceria estratégica entre estas duas organizações nos traz e vos traz e traz às empresas de Portugal. Portanto, sem mais, começaria e gostaria de partilhar convosco que tipo de proposta de valor é que achamos que a cloud híbrida traz para as organizações, porque é que é uma alavanca da transformação digital das empresas, também passando pelo tipo de desafios que esta proposta de valor traz para os negócios e como é que de alguma forma os podemos endereçar, como é que poderemos ajudar e, na realidade, que tipo de prioridades é que podem ser definidas para a transformação dos vários negócios. Se calhar começando só por alguns números e algum enquadramento muito simples. Há boas notícias na cloudização das organizações. A primeira boa notícia é que 3/4 das organizações já utilizam cloud, algum tipo de cloud. Há uma melhor notícia ainda: 80% das organizações, 84%, já pensam em multi-cloud, portanto em cenários em que colocam, workloads distintos, em clouds distintas para fins distintos, mas na prática há um último número que nos diz que ainda temos aqui um longo caminho a percorrer, que são aqueles 59% que aparecem ali no final, no sentido em que, mesmo daqui a 2 anos, só pouco mais de metade do tecido empresarial é que estará maioritariamente em cima de cloud, o que nos mostra que, de alguma forma, ainda existirão clouds heterogéneas, ambientes mistos entre arquiteturas físicas e virtuais durante bastante tempo, e, portanto, é uma realidade que tem que ser endereçada. Nós acreditamos que a adoção de cloud é mais do que, uma decisão oportunística, é uma decisão estratégica para as organizações, é um imperativo, no sentido em que existem racionais muito claros, tanto do ponto de vista de negócio como do ponto de vista tecnológico, para se avançar com este tipo de movimento. Por um lado, e em primeira instância, do lado de negócio, este tipo de arquiteturas, de tecnologia, permite uma enormíssima agilidade e rapidez no redesenho de arquiteturas e soluções, o que permite, no final do dia, ao negócio a reagir mais rápido. Por outro lado, eu argumentaria também que a cloud transforma os custos da IT de passivo para ativo, e eu diria até mais para enabler, e portanto isto de alguma forma reconfigura a pegada financeira que o IT representa dentro das organizações. E depois existem aqui um conjunto de drivers tecnológicos, talvez mais evidentes, mas não menos relevantes, no sentido de que uma migração para a cloud permite efetivamente caminhar no sentido de padronização de arquiteturas e, de alguma forma, flexibilização dos ambientes que as empresas, de alguma forma, dispõem, alinhando até os investimentos com as necessidades concretas do negócio a cada momento. Este caminho para a cloud, como acabei de dizer, é na realidade um caminho, não um fim em si. E, portanto, a adoção de hybrid e multi-cloud não é algo imediato. O que temos vindo a observar é que ao longo dos últimos 3, 4, 5 anos tem existido uma gradual adoção de alguns cenários de cloud, várias empresas com arquiteturas de cloud privada a suportar os seus negócios, várias organizações também a iniciarem o seu caminho para a cloud pública, mais recentemente grandes organizações a testarem cenários de multi-cloud, mas na realidade, e tendo em conta até os números do primeiro slide, o contexto que temos que gerir, o contexto que temos que desenhar e suportar é um contexto de cloud híbrida, no sentido em que diria eu, sensato acreditar que os ambientes tecnológicos vão ter que coexistir, ou que ambientes tecnológicos físicos vão ter que coexistir com ambientes tecnológicos virtuais, uns no país, outros fora do país, uns na sede das organizações, nos seus próprios data centers, outros em parceiros como a NOS, que podem alojar este tipo de workloads, mas o corolário é que efetivamente este cenário de cloud híbrida é um cenário que veio para ficar, é um cenário que temos que de alguma forma gerir desde já. E é um pouco com este enquadramento que tinha aqui meia dúzia de pontos para partilhar convosco. São pontos que de alguma forma suportam a nossa estratégia e a nossa visão e proposta de valor à volta da cloud híbrida, e portanto, se quiserem, podia apresentar-vos como pontos que sentimos serem prioridades nesta cloud journey, pontos que, em alguns casos, mais do que prioridades, já suportam tendências, no sentido em que temos vindo a trabalhar com várias organizações que de alguma forma já iniciaram este caminho. Em primeira instância, diria que quase como fator higiênico, como o primeiro passo deste caminho é garantir que as arquiteturas físicas continuam a ser endereçadas e, portanto, desse ponto de vista, garantir que existe um fortíssimo ecossistema de data centers, seja das próprias organizações, sejam de parceiros como a NOS. Data centers adequadamente certificados, mas que suportem arquiteturas sofisticadas, como arquiteturas ativo-ativo, como arquiteturas de supercomputação, e que, de alguma forma, garantam também os diferentes níveis de segurança, resiliência e performance que os negócios exigem. Eu diria que este é claramente um dos fatores, deixem-me chamar fator higiênico neste caminho, porque vamos ter que continuar a endereçar tudo o que são workloads físicos e ambientes mais tradicionais. Dito isto, é desde já também de alguma forma crítico e importante as empresas começarem de alguma forma, prioritizar e migrar taticamente parte das suas arquiteturas para cloud, para um cenário multi-cloud, até porque existe aqui um conjunto de vantagens particularmente relevantes nos cenários multi-cloud, nomeadamente a complementaridade entre os portfólios dos vários players, um cenário que de alguma forma reduz, minimiza e de alguma forma controla o risco do vendor lock-in. Só que temos que ter em conta que estas vantagens têm atrelados um conjunto de desafios, nomeadamente a complementaridade obriga de alguma forma a sofisticar um pouco mais a orquestração entre este tipo de workloads que estão dispersos. O vendor lock-in ou a minimização do vendor lock-in obriga a ter competências latências nos vários parceiros que irão suportar as plataformas, e isto na realidade seria válido para todas as vantagens são acompanhadas de alguns desafios. Vejamos, por exemplo, diria eu, por exemplo, a componente da geografia, o facto de se conseguir aceder a workloads que estão espalhados pelo mundo, coloca também alguma pressão na performance de aplicações devido à latência intrínseca que uma arquitetura distribuída pode ter ao estar espalhada pelo mundo. E, portanto, a nota aqui é tanto a temática dos ativos físicos, que referi no slide anterior, como a temática do início do percurso numa lógica multi-cloud são fatores higiênicos, os fatores iniciais, talvez a primeira fase deste percurso para a cloud, têm que ser endereçados e têm que ser endereçados de forma consciente, no sentido em que trazem também alguns desafios adicionais para as organizações. Num segundo ponto, o que temos observado como movimento prioritário, talvez até mais do que movimento, aqui alguma tendência, é a cloud como uma melhor forma de gerir a enorme quantidade de informação que as organizações têm hoje em dia e um crescimento explosivo de informação, de dados, que se tem vindo a observar no mundo em geral e nas organizações em particular. E, portanto, desse ponto de vista, o crescimento dos dados, a necessidade de os processar rapidamente, a necessidade de extrair informação, insights destes dados, cria muita pressão sobre os ativos tecnológicos, pressão essa que obriga a uma necessidade imensa de escalabilidade e flexibilidade de infraestruturas. Essa escalabilidade traz, por consequência, a necessidade de investimentos financeiros avultados e, portanto, desse ponto de vista, a cloud é claramente uma forma de controlar ou alinhar os investimentos necessários com a quantidade de informação que gradualmente tem vindo a aumentar e, portanto, é claramente um ponto que merece destaque neste caminho para a cloud. Falados que estão os primeiros passos dos data centers tradicionais, da visão multi-cloud e dos dados, uma terceira nota que nos parece totalmente relevante é o tema do aplicacional. E, portanto, desse ponto de vista, a cloud, que é efetivamente um enabler para a transformação digital, só o conseguirá ser se conseguir suportar as aplicações, os SIs das organizações. A boa notícia, e eu trago-vos aqui mais do que uma ideia, um facto, uma evidência baseada em experiência da NOS, é que as organizações já começaram este caminho há 2, 3 anos, com a migração de sistemas core. E, portanto, ao dia de hoje já existem várias organizações que migraram os seus sistemas core. Eu aqui trago o exemplo do SAP, do ERP, e em concreto, organizações que migraram o seu ERP para infraestruturas SAP HANA na cloud, com as vantagens que traz esta capacidade elástica e capacidade de escala que uma cloud traz, sem disrupção do seu negócio, no sentido em que existem, ao dia de hoje, e a própria NOS tem ajudado alguns clientes neste percurso, existem práticas concretas de migração destes tipos de workloads aplicacionais, numa lógica de plataforma como serviço, para arquiteturas de cloud pública. Nota também particularmente relevante, quando falamos de coisas, dados, informação, que no final do dia pode estar numa rede mais ou menos distribuída. Isto traz aqui pressão e traz aqui a obrigatoriedade de darmos uma outra nota para as temáticas de conectividade e segurança. Em primeira instância, conectividade, no sentido que arquiteturas distribuídas criam efetivamente pressão na componente aplicacional, quanto mais não seja pela necessidade de enviar informação em longas distâncias, que naturalmente trazem menor performance no tráfego desta informação, maiores latências, etc., que por sua vez acaba por ter impacto nas aplicações das próprias empresas e aplicações de suporte ao negócio. E, portanto, nesse sentido, garantir que existe uma adequada rede de conectividade local, alargada entre os sites do cliente, mas também com a cloud pública, é também um fator muito relevante para o sucesso de uma migração para a cloud, e neste sentido a NOS tem vindo a trabalhar com os principais players de cloud pública para garantir que temos conectividade direta com estes grandes players, o que no final do dia nos permite entregar às empresas uma garantia de performance, segurança, resiliência, níveis de serviço integrados nas comunicações entre estes workloads, independentemente do local onde eles estiverem. Nota final para a temática do Edge, até porque é o tema que nos traz aqui hoje, e lá por ser nota final não é menos importante, até porque a temática do Edge, que tem vindo a ser falada há algum tempo, está a ter uma importância, diria, crescente numa lógica explosiva de importância, no sentido em que, com o advento e com a aceleração do digital, da digitalização do negócio, das organizações, que de uma forma ou de outra, até o contexto atual, veio precipitar e acelerar. Se tivermos em conta que com o advento também do 5G, a necessidade de captura de informação, processamento desta informação, vai obrigar a processar, a fazer computação muito perto do mundo físico, então o Edge passa a ter aqui uma importância crescente, muito, muito relevante, e deste ponto de vista tem uma posição muito digna como um dos 5 fatores mais importantes neste journey para a cloud. Há uma necessidade de embrulhar tudo isto que vimos agora, porque o facto é que estas arquiteturas, de alguma forma, podem vir a trazer uma complexidade acrescida no desenho, na gestão e, na realidade, na evolução da tecnologia e dos desenhos das arquiteturas em si. E, portanto, nesse sentido, toma também cada vez mais importância a necessidade de um single pane of glass, portanto, de uma visão única sobre estas arquiteturas heterogéneas, distribuídas e muito dinâmicas, e, portanto, nesse sentido, eu diria que há aqui um lugar de honra para esta componente de integração, interoperabilidade e, mais do que isso, de canal único de visualização e gestão para este tipo de plataformas que existem aqui disponibilizadas, e traria aqui o exemplo em que a própria NOS, tanto nas suas arquiteturas internas como nas arquiteturas que coloca à disposição dos nossos clientes e empresas, criou aqui esta layer, o NOS Cloud Management Platform, que permite a uma entidade observar a sua arquitetura independentemente das decisões tecnológicas que tenham sido tomadas mesmo na sua base. All in all, e para passarmos de alguma forma e focarmos a discussão num dos pontos que falámos aqui e que eu já argumentei e voltaria a salientar, que é claramente um dos pontos mais importantes deste journey para a cloud, que é o Edge. Deixem-me só fazer um resumo, e o resumo seria a journey para a cloud é uma journey, não é um caminho, não é um destino, é um imperativo de transformação que atravessa anos, atravessa empresas, começou há pouco tempo, vai continuar durante mais algum tempo, e é mesmo importante que as organizações consigam desenhar uma estratégia holística que enderece, por um lado, as parcerias com os principais public cloud providers, que garantam ativos ou parcerias com entidades que detenham redes de data centers que permitam use cases sofisticados, conectividade local, mas também às próprias clouds públicas, que garantam resiliência, segurança, performance, etc. É importante também que seja garantida e que seja colocada uma layer de segurança e monitorização em cima de toda esta plataforma, e deste ponto de vista, falando um pouco da experiência da NOS, esta layer está intrínseca à nossa proposta de valor, à oferta que temos no mercado, e até porque a NOS, como operador, consegue endereçar as temáticas de segurança a muito, muito baixo nível e de forma muito, muito abrangente. E depois, por último, não nos podemos esquecer que depois de desenhada uma arquitetura hybrid, depois de implementada este tipo de tecnologias e depois de implementados os projetos tecnológicos e de migração, é claramente importante ter em conta que a tecnologia tem vindo a evoluir a uma velocidade exponencial e que, portanto, as necessidades de constante atualização do conhecimento das próprias equipas que gerem as plataformas é também por si um imperativo e, portanto, claramente um fator crítico a ter em conta. A NOS tem-se vindo a assumir como o parceiro para a transformação digital das organizações em Portugal, das empresas, e deste ponto de vista, o que vimos apresentar-vos hoje, com o lançamento pioneiro do AWS Outpost na Península Ibérica, é mais um passo neste caminho e, na realidade, é mais um ativo que pomos à disposição dos nossos clientes, das empresas com quem trabalhamos, para além do que vemos neste slide e portanto, de outros fatores, nomeadamente serviços, ativos físicos, etc., que são claramente peças muito relevantes neste percurso. Muito obrigado.
Bom dia, amigos de NOS. Thank you for having me here today, and thank you to Tiago Ribeiro for allowing me to share with you for a few minutes what we are introducing today with AWS Outpost and NOS. I wish I were there in Portugal with you today, but unfortunately, travel restrictions did not allow me to return to the Iberian Peninsula. What I'd like to spend the next few moments talking about is about how we are breaking the barriers to cloud adoption and how Outpost enables that along with a strong partnership with NOS. So AWS made an investment about 2 years ago that talked about bringing cloud services directly into the data center. And that's why I'm here. There has never, ever been an example in the history of computing where the default development environment did not become the default deployment environment. That is always followed. You have examples from the transitions from the mainframe to open systems and Unix, and then NT, and then Linux. And now for over the last decade, startups initially, and now enterprises globally, are discovering the benefits of deploying in the cloud and innovating at that quick, fast-paced fashion. And so what Outpost enables is for companies who have significant challenges and still need to have that cloud framework and that cloud environment can now have those services available to them inside of a managed service provider, inside of a co-location facility, inside of a data center. But as with all transitions that happened in the computing world, there's always challenges to overcome. And so what I'd like to outline for you are some of the challenges that we've seen repeatedly from customers as they try to address moving workloads into the cloud, and challenges that they have in general in terms of just keeping investments in their data centers. Well, first of all, from a customer perspective, there are three large categories of challenges that we've seen. We've seen infrastructure challenges, let's just call those IT challenges. We see developer challenges, and we see business challenges. Now, clearly, the business challenges are the ones that dominate in terms of corporate and enterprise usage. The challenges that businesses are generally facing have to do, one, with efficiency, how much utilization they're getting from their investments, the time to market, the speed of innovation. They also have challenges with regards to regulations and obviously budget challenges, controlling their costs in terms of investments. But the IT challenges and developer challenges are equally as significant. For example, in the traditional data center deployment, the IT challenges start all the way from procurement, the complex cycle by which one is able to certify, then procure, then provision a particular solution takes a long time. In many cases, it takes 6 months just to get servers deployed inside of a data center. And there's multiple vendors to deal with. And then you have to take care of the install. And then eventually, the cost that really dominates becomes the maintenance costs. The maintenance costs become significant because now you have to develop a competency of having a matrix of software and hardware products that work well with one another as you're doing patches and as you are doing updates to the installations that you already have running your mission critical environments. And so this compatibility matrix across hardware and software and other infrastructure really becomes a major cost burden over time. Developers also have a major challenge in that if they're trying to move to the cloud and yet some applications cannot move for reasons that we'll get into in a few seconds, they have to then develop different frameworks, different APIs, different tools, and in many cases, siloed environments that they have to not just develop to, but then maintain. And so that becomes a significant difficulty and a significant hurdle for them. In many cases, they'll develop in one environment and then have to do a migration or re-architecture to work in another environment. So they're developing in at least two different environments that they have to maintain over time. And this also becomes complex and costly in terms of people power and productivity. And then there are the challenges that the cloud has to servicing some particular use cases. For example, within the enterprise, there's many latency sensitive workloads that require specific millisecond sized, whether it's single digit or double digit milliseconds, envelope within which the applications need a response. And so speed of light issues and networking delays cause these applications to fail if you're above a certain threshold of milliseconds. So latency sensitive applications are challenging in terms of deploying into a region. Also, there's two challenges within data locality. The first being that some workloads that are being done within the edge gather many, many petabytes of data. And this data set can be ephemeral. If it's ephemeral, the cost of moving that data into the cloud just to get rid of it and to do some computation of it may not be economically feasible. And instead, if you can just do some edge processing, so you have some local data processing that happens at the edge and then scale the overall solution in the clouds or the overall application that you're trying to run in the clouds becomes a much more economically viable architecture. There is also that second challenge within data locality that I mentioned, which is from a regulatory perspective, there are some application workloads, depending on the segment or the country you're in, that need to stay in the data center, in a managed service, or within a country. And so there's sensitivity to sharing that data outside the country, whether you're in the public sector or you're within a regulated industry such as financial services or healthcare, life sciences, etc. And then the last challenge in terms of overall use cases is the simple migration of workloads between the data center and the cloud. So how does one go about orchestrating that without having to spend quite a bit of money and resources? So Outpost directly addresses these challenges by enabling a solution for IT or the infrastructure investments, for the developer, and for businesses. And as you see in this slide, the ones on the left here are the ones that Outpost address from an infrastructure perspective. Since we're driving large economies of scale from our investments in the region, we are using the same reliable, secure, and high performance infrastructure in our data centers as we are using with Outposts. It's the same hardware that we're using ourselves. And it also has the same operational consistency in terms of maintenance and updates and upkeep as we do within the regions itself. The next two challenges that you see here are more developer-centric challenges that Outpost addresses, such as having the similar services and APIs so that you don't have to rewrite your application between a data center deployment of Outposts and scaling it into the region, and the same tools for automation and deployments and security controls as you would use in the cloud. And then lastly, what Outpost enables is it enables your development environment and deployment environment to become so efficient that you have the same pace of innovation as you would in the region cloud. So Outpost enables that by having the same exact framework. So that's the way that Outpost addresses these different challenges. Later on, you will hear from Rowan Matthews, and he'll address how Outpost actually does this from a technical perspective. But at a high level, what this allows the CXO to determine here is that they look at this and they're able to avoid silos, improve efficiency, and accelerate business outcomes. Essentially, that is what Outpost enables by leveraging the same sort of infrastructure, the same sort of APIs and services and operational consistency, and the same tools as we do for our regional deployments. So, in terms of Outposts and addressing the targeted use cases that I'd mentioned before with regards to low latency, with regards to data residency, and with regards to migration, from the first perspective here, initially what we have done within Outposts is we've provided a set of rich services that are consistent with what you see in the cloud. So, for example, whether they're EC2 instances or EBS volumes or VPC or local gateway or RDS services, particularly right now on MySQL and Postgres, or containers such as ECS or EKS, so either Elastic Container Services or Elastic Kubernetes Services. And then finally, with respect to data processing such as Elastic MapReduce and load balancing, all those services are the same as they are within the regions. Now, specifically, how those address low latency requirements. In some business critical applications are sensitive to latency, and there's no getting around it. You have to operate within a particular envelope. So you need your applications to run on premise or near your premise in order for them to respond within that envelope and ensure smooth and predictable operations. So you may have adopted Amazon Cloud for centralized operations, but you find you need to run maybe, let's say, compute or graphics or storage intensive workloads on premise to execute those localized workflows with precision and quality. So this is what Outpost addresses from the low latency perspective. Second, for local data processing and data integrity, there's been, in many cases, an exponential increase in the amount of data that is being generated by users and by devices within factories and within manufacturing operations, within healthcare. And data integrity is a key concern in these locations because they're bandwidth constrained. So you have these data intensive workloads that are collecting and processing hundreds and hundreds of terabytes on a daily basis. Transmission of this large volume of data to the cloud is expensive and maybe not economically viable. So what Outpost allows you to do is it allows you to address to dedicate some local compute capacity and provide the execution that you need locally in order to carry out those workloads in a scalable fashion. What you see here is that we've launched Outposts about 10 months ago now, and there's already plenty of customers on a worldwide basis that are reaping the benefits of Outpost deployments. Let me start first with an example of Philips. Philips uses AWS Outpost for their healthcare health suite digital platform. AWS Outpost enables the low latency that they need, access to the local data processing, things like PACS for imaging systems on premise. So EC2 instances, EC2 ECS clusters, and RDS databases are using the same deployment toolset that they would have used inside of the regions. And of course, images are kept locally for a certain period, and then they're sent into the region for long-term storage and backup within an S3 and an S3 Glacier. And they're using the same frameworks in order to do monitoring using CloudWatch dashboards and alerts and AWS Management Console for Outposts across many sites. So that's Philips as an example of how that's enabled by Outposts. Morningstar is a global financial services firm that's headquartered in Chicago in the United States. And they provide an array of investment and research oriented management services. Now they're on a long journey toward the cloud. And so what the customer is on is they're migrating over a 5-year period a lot of their VMware stack, their virtual machines, into a native AWS architecture. And they're using Outposts to host on-premise their container services and be able to address their lower latency capacity for real-time market data. So this is an important case where they're in a migration phase, but they also need that low latency type of capability that Outpost is able to deliver. So lastly, we're on a journey, and we're on a journey with partners across the globe. We're very happy to have NOS as one of the leading companies that we've launched a service with to provide these AWS Outpost capability locally, not just again for large enterprises, but also for small and medium businesses within Portugal. AWS is offering a rich roadmap of not just Outposts that provide these services within the data center, but also Wavelength, which was recently launched, and local zones. And more services are going to be added onto Outposts as we continue to progress in our roadmap. And so now you have the most popular developer stack for the cloud with the most popular deployment environment for the cloud natively for you within a managed service. Now, what NOS offers is tremendous, especially for the enterprises within Portugal. They have expertise with leading enterprise deployments within Portugal. They also have their local data center and MSP presences, as well as their specialized services and their ISV solutions. And so the uniqueness with regards to working with NOS and why managed services on Outpost is critical for us is that we find that working with partners like NOS, who provide both the managed service as well as the last mile connectivity to customers, is essential to bring AWS closer, not just to the large enterprises, as mentioned, but also to multiple small and medium customers. This is the first time that we've introduced managed services on Outposts. With NOS Cloud Orchestration Platform, we are able to demonstrate successfully that we can host multiple end customer workloads on Outposts. This means that end customers who have smaller workloads that are latency sensitive or have data residency requirements can now leverage the benefits of AWS services that are available on Outposts and seamlessly access the whole set of services in AWS through Outposts. So that is a major step for us. Again, what we've done here is we have helped from a challenges perspective, allowing enterprises to accelerate their time to market by unifying their code development environments and maintenance environments for both on-prem and the region. Again, thank you very much. I'm Maj and NOS.
Hey everybody, my name is Rohan Matthews, and I'm the lead architect for the AWS Outpost, Wavelength, and Local Zone services. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about a topic that I've been very passionate about for a very long time, and that is how AWS Outpost enables seamless edge and hybrid computing. This has been a big challenge for customers for quite a while now. Trying to integrate their on-premise environments and their cloud environments in a seamless way to gain benefits that both environments bring to their businesses. And I've been working in this space for quite some time, and I've had the opportunity to see those challenges firsthand, and have been fortunate enough to be able to work with the team that developed the AWS Outpost service as a way to address these challenges that customers have been facing. And so today what I'm going to talk to you about is how Outpost really changes the game for customers who want to run hybrid workloads or run workloads at the edge and really bring the value and capability of cloud services to their businesses. So let's start by looking at some of those problems. So in talking to customers over the years, what we've observed and what they've been telling us is they want the scalability and reliability and security that cloud services bring, as well as kind of the well-known scalability, reliability, and security that they've built capability around on-premise. And it's been very challenging for them to see the same benefit from cloud services and their on-premise environments in the same way, because each environment scales a little differently. Each has slightly different reliability, which in some ways is based on how an application is built or architected, or how an infrastructure provides reliability for that application. And from a security perspective, it's really been a matter of what customers have built up over many years versus what they are now learning the cloud can bring to them, and the experience that AWS Cloud has around securing many different types of customers' workloads. Now, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. When customers go and pursue building hybrid clouds, they inevitably run into a lot of issues with very complicated network architectures in order for their applications on-premise to interoperate with applications in the cloud. And this is just the nature of how the two environments being fairly different in how they implement network constructs creates this situation where it makes it very challenging to just plug and play. On top of that, I've seen customers run into situations where the tools in their toolbox that they use for operating their environment or building their applications or configuring the interop between cloud and on-premise, that toolbox is ever growing and has been becoming more and more inconsistent, where customers may have different sets of tools for managing the cloud and versus what they're using for managing their on-premise environments. And kind of to put a wrapper around all of that, it's been very challenging for customers to keep the same pace of innovation or pace of deployment of capability. AWS calls those services. On-premise, it may be a particular application landscape. But in order to have parity between what's in the cloud and what's on-premise, customers have tended to sacrifice using the latest and greatest, and instead using what is normally called the lowest common denominator between environments. And so they're not really getting the full benefit of cloud, and they're not really seeing the full benefit of on-prem in their hybrid configurations. So what I'm going to talk to you about today, like I mentioned, is how the AWS Outpost service addresses these issues, and how we've taken our observations and actually simplified on a number of fronts on behalf of our customers in order to make this service, bring the service to you. So let's start with talking about scalability, reliability, and security. The cloud is a very secure environment, and over the last decade or so, AWS has been able to really refine its security posture by attaining many different certifications. But we've also implemented many different services for customers to be able to secure different layers of their application stack. Now, what we've had to do under the covers in order to make that possible is deploy a fairly consistent and reliable infrastructure that's also scalable. And so what I'm showing you here is the AWS Outpost Rack. It is a piece of hardware that our services run on. But the AWS Outpost service, while it does come with hardware, is a fully managed service, which means AWS owns the hardware and runs the service for you. And so by doing that, what we're doing is essentially running it the same way that we run our infrastructure in the cloud. That same infrastructure down to the server is what we have in the AWS Outpost Rack. And this has This is the same technology we use to build the cloud scale data centers, and it's the same reliable infrastructure that we've designed over many years and many iterations. And so we are bringing that capability in this package called the AWS Outpost service to you. And it's maintained by AWS. We push patches to it from the region. Our AWS badged employees are responsible for doing physical maintenance. And so this is how we laid the foundation upon which we can build a very secure and robust environment. So let's talk about that security piece a little more. Security is really a shared responsibility. It's a shared responsibility between you, the customer, and us, AWS, the service provider. And when we talk about AWS Outpost, that responsibility kind of shifts a little bit. In the cloud, AWS is responsible for everything from the ground up. That includes the data center. With AWS Outpost, we're putting our infrastructure into a customer or a partner's data center. And so that piece is now the responsibility of yourself, the customer, or your service provider. But outside of that, the shared responsibility model is very similar to what we run in the AWS region, which is our customers are responsible for what they put into the cloud. So you need to make sure you set the right controls, turn on encryption, and make sure only those who are authenticated and authorized by you have access to your applications and your data. AWS is very much, like I mentioned, responsible for the infrastructure. And since we're maintaining Outposts like it's an extension of an AWS region and our responsibility, we will take care of those foundational services running on the Outpost, including the hardware, which we've had to add extra security to in order to allow it to be outside of our four walls and still maintain that high level of security that our customers have come to trust AWS to deliver. And so what we've had to do is actually harden our hardware a little bit. So we've built tamper-proofing into the actual servers. We've made sure to kind of lock the door on the AWS Outpost and tell our customers that really no one should be going in and out of the rack unless it's an AWS employee who's coming to do maintenance. And to further secure your data and secure your infrastructure, we've designed a security device called the Nitro Security Key. And what that does is it encrypts any data on any storage device on your Outpost from the time it boots up to the time that we have to potentially remove it for maintenance. By removing that security key, all data that could possibly be on any storage device will be cryptographically shredded. So effectively erasing any data that could potentially rest on any device that can hold data. We've gone through these extra measures in order to ensure we maintain the highest level of security, because at AWS, security is job zero for us. So we've extended that mentality and those tenets to the AWS Outpost service and how it runs on premise by providing these enhancements to the hardware and to the kit. So let's talk a little bit about going beyond this piece. This is something that, as a cloud provider, we're doing for you, and now you, the customer, can kind of focus on other portions of the stack. But as I mentioned earlier, there's still this piece of, now I've got a piece of hybrid infrastructure, or I've got a piece of infrastructure, and I want to set up a hybrid workflow between on-premise and the cloud. And as I mentioned before, lots of customers have said that's very challenging from a networking perspective. But what we've done is we've simplified that. And I'm going to start by explaining the complexity behind what we've done and how seamless it is to you now that we've basically taken care of the hard parts. So how does an Outpost work? AWS Outpost is a piece of infrastructure, like I mentioned, that goes into your data center. But how does it extend the AWS cloud? The brains of the operation, the control plane for the Outpost, rest in the region to which it is anchored. And that's up on the left side of the picture. on the right side, the AWS Outpost has to make a connection from the customer's environment or the service provider's environment back to the AWS control plane. Once that connection is made, we call that connection the service link. Then all command and control, meaning API calls to AWS, which tell the Outpost to do things like spin up a server, create a storage volume, or take a backup, for example. Those commands are sent to the AWS region and then sent down the service link back to the Outpost on the right side, on the customer environment side, where that mutating action takes place. All the health type of metrics about the Outpost, about the physical hardware, is sent back to the AWS region, and it's monitored by by AWS as part of the service. You as a customer have access to not only you have access to the control plane via the APIs at the regional endpoint. But that's not the only thing that we're doing when we set up the Outpost in your environment. We're also extending the data plane between the region and your Outpost. The data plane is where all the networking between the two sites takes place. This is where what we call our virtual private cloud exists, where you as a customer would configure the environment as needed per your network rules and governance rules. That data plane is seamlessly extended over our service link between the region and the Outpost. And that data plane is where you would run your virtual machines and your workloads on the Outpost. And those workloads can talk seamlessly to any workloads running in the region through that data plane. But the whole purpose of bringing an Outpost on-prem is not so you can just talk to workloads in the cloud. You may also have to talk to workloads on-premise. And this is where we set up what we call our local gateway, which is the red line in the diagram on the far right side. And that allows workloads on the Outpost to talk to workloads sitting on-premise. Now, I know, very complicated diagram showing you kind of all of the different paths that the service link and the local gateway could take in order for that setup to occur. These are things that customers have been doing on their own and been trying to essentially implement such that it works seamlessly so workloads don't have to have complicated network architectures in order to span on-premise and cloud. But what does this look like to you when you're running on an Outpost or running in AWS? Well, when you first set up your environment in AWS, you set up a virtual private cloud, and in that virtual private cloud, you select a couple of availability zones across which you may want to run your workloads. And the workloads in the subnets that are in each availability zone can talk to each other as though it's a flat network between the VPCs. In reality, the availability zones are separate buildings that are separated from one another by enough distance so that they're in different fault domains. When we introduce Outpost into the mix, what we see is the Outpost thinks it's part of the AWS region, but it's physically sitting in your data center or in your service provider's data center. And because we've extended the data plane from the region to the Outpost, we just create a subnet on the Outpost, and we target that subnet for workloads to be launched into. As I was mentioning before, that workload that's now running on the Outpost can talk to anything in the region, just like it's on a flat network. It doesn't know that it's sitting in a different data center. It just notices a higher latency between itself and a workload in the region. But what about the local network? Well, that's where we have the local gateway. That local gateway is a logical construct that's running over the physical links the Outpost is connected to in your data center. And workloads in the Outpost can talk to anything on your customer on the customer network in your network, just as though it was part of your network, with just a set of routes that are exchanged between your network and the local gateway. So from your developer's perspective, your operations perspective, and your architect's perspective, these environments are fairly seamlessly tied together. And all of that complexity I showed you with the stand-up of a data plane and a control plane and configuring networking between the environments, is completely transparent to you. That's one of those little pieces of magic that AWS is really good at, and a real differentiator. And so you can access services and applications on-prem, or resources on-prem. You can access resources in an availability zone in a region, or you can access services that are connected to the region, like our S3 service, for example, that are deployed across the entire region. And to a workload running on Outpost, it's all seamless. So that's really kind of what that's really one of those big game changers that we bring to the table with the AWS Outpost service. But how do we glue it all together? I mentioned your architects, your operations teams, your security teams, others will want to manage this environment as seamlessly as possible as it is to just kind of stand up a workload on. And we really kind of bring a single pane of glass approach to operations and management. And the way we do that, like I mentioned, is we're extending the control plane from the region to the outpost. So the outpost really is a part of an AWS region. When you log into your console, you see the outpost as capacity in the region dedicated to you, where you can use the same tools for things like orchestration and automation, which is controlled by our CloudFormation service. This is where your developers can deploy infrastructure as code. If you want to monitor the capacity of your outpost, you can use our CloudWatch service, and that gives you an idea of how much capacity you have across various instance types. Outposts are fairly finite in capacity compared to the region, so you could set threshold alerts that tell you, okay, I'm running out of C5 family instances, and the next workload that I launch, we can probably launch it in the region instead of on the outpost, and just burst capacity out there until we get more capacity on the outpost. You can also use higher level services like Elastic Beanstalk, and for like the security-minded team members, you can use Resource Access Manager to allocate resources to different teams and different accounts, and control what they have access to on the outpost through things like IAM, our Identity and Access Management service. So the way you manage workloads in AWS in the region and on the outpost is exactly the same, because the outpost is an extension of the cloud, and it can benefit from all of the management tools that are available to you today. So let's talk about the last little bit. You've got your outpost up and running. You've got your network seamlessly extended. You've got a way to manage and monitor it pretty seamlessly with a single set of tools. But what about the rapid innovation? The biggest issues with that for customers, like I mentioned, is not being able to deploy capability to keep up with cloud capability on-prem, and having to really decide what the trade-off is, either on-prem or cloud. But if you wanted both, you really have to reduce your capability across both. Well, when we launched the Outpost service in December of 2019, we launched with the services listed here in green. These services are basically our atomic baseline services that we can build other capability off of. And they're what enabled us to very rapidly launch the services listed in white. Between January and October of this year, we were able to launch services for networking, database, storage and transfer, and even enhanced management tools. Doing something like that at that scale in your on-premise hybrid cloud environment is very challenging. It takes a lot of expertise, and if you don't have very consistent, scalable, and reliable infrastructure, you don't have a very solid security model around which you can build and deploy, it becomes very challenging. Something else that's very interesting about this is, and it's another one of those game changers, is I don't have to install this capability on your outpost like you're used to potentially doing when deploying new infrastructure or trying to build hybrid infrastructure. This capability is pulled down to the outpost from the region. In the same way we manage services in the region, they are managed on an Outpost. So we'll check and see if you have the capacity to run one of these services and the right configuration of instances. For example, if you have the capacity and you have the right type of instances, you can launch one of these services on Outpost. As our customers provide feedback to us about their needs, we'll continue to release more services on Outpost, and we'll release what makes sense, the types of services that really benefit your business in running at low latency, or being able to process data locally very quickly, or having to process data in place due to residency requirements. We'll work with our customers and take feedback, and we'll see this list grow over time. As far as capability goes, from being able to take it from region and make it available on the Outpost. Now, something I want to mention here is you're not limited just to these capabilities. We actually have been working on a program called the Outpost Service Ready program, where we've been working with ISVs who provide technologies that can run on-premise and essentially augment or enhance the experience of running a workload on an Outpost. And these partners have run their applications in our test environments. They've made modifications to their environments to run optimally on Outpost, and they've validated interoperability. And we'll continue to work with partners, and if there are partners that you're interested in us working with, let us know, and we'll onboard them into the Outpost Service Ready program. So these partners greatly expand the amount of capabilities and the types of capabilities that you can run on Outpost, in addition to what AWS brings to the table. And because they're going through and ensuring proper interop, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to deploy these capabilities, both in the region and on the Outpost. All right, so I went through a lot of information with you today, and I wish I could stick around and dive really deep into each of these capabilities and services, but unfortunately I have a limited amount of time today. So what I'd recommend you doing is taking a look at our resources page and kind of diving into any one of the services running on Outpost, or take a look at our Outpost Service Ready program and check out some of the ISVs. I think you'll find that we've been kind of hard at work over the last few months, really enhancing the capability and we look forward to hearing from you. If you'd like to get in contact with us, we have a little contact us button on the page. With that, I'd say thank you again for the time. I enjoyed being here and being able to talk about Outpost. I think it's a real game changer, and I hope you see the benefit in the service, and look forward to doing business with you.
Thanks for joining us, Miguel, for this exciting landmark for NOS, for Portugal, and I think for AWS as well. What does it mean for AWS to launch this offer in Portugal and to launch it with NOS?
Manuel, it's a privilege to be here with you today. And look, delivering NOS Outpost is an innovative and forward-looking case in Portugal, in Europe, and even worldwide, right? Let's think about it. I mean, companies of all sizes will take advantage of this service. It is one step further, and you know that very well, Manuel, to democratize technology and give access to innovation to every single company in Portugal. It doesn't matter the size, it doesn't matter the vertical, it doesn't matter the industry. Every single one of them could benefit from accessing to technology and innovate on behalf of their customers. For us in Amazon Web Services, Outpost is a critical building block in our strategy in Portugal, in our presence in Portugal. This shared infrastructure, I believe, Manuel, that can transform fundamentally the service value chain in the Portuguese market. So really excited about that. But tell me one thing, Manuel. How does it fit into your strategy, into NOS Cloud strategy, specifically for the B2B market, for the business to business?
Well, for us, Miguel, this is a key pillar of our strategy. Basically, we have a hybrid cloud strategy, but we're trying to help our customers migrate at their own pace to the cloud, and at every step of the way, they maintain a secure, performant environment that makes all their workloads interoperable. And so this is absolutely guaranteed by the Outpost and by our infrastructure. The second is that we can basically deploy all of these applications and workloads and environments in this high-performance, interoperable fashion that allows them to make the most of this cloud journey and have the most confidence in doing it. And the third, probably the most Outpost related, is that we can ensure that our customers will have both their locality concerns and also their performance concerns taken care of in this journey, because we're offering them basically the same or greater performance than their local environments in this process of migration. I think as important is that NOS itself is doing this path as well, and it's taking advantage also of this infrastructure, and it's a good thing that we can help our customers do what we have already tried, so that we can share the knowledge that we've acquired in the process with our customers. So what do you think that companies and institutions in Portugal can expect of this infrastructure to take it to its fullest potential?
Yeah, I think, Manuel, if we look at the reason why companies are adopting the cloud, it's mainly around innovation and agility, right? It's not to have to focus on tasks that are not going to add any value. Leave that to people like NOS and AWS, and they can focus on how to innovate, how to add value to their own customers, right? I don't think I'm discovering any secret if I share with you and with the rest of the people today looking at us that we are going to be living some difficult times, right? And it's the right time for companies to invent. It's the right time for companies to reimagine how they can create more value in a different way to their own customers. How we can create together new value chain by a way we exchange and create value in a different manner, right? Companies today are doing that in Portugal, right? Like OutSystem, Fitsai, Galp. You mentioned yourself, actually. You know what it is. You know what it takes, right? You know how it can be done. And I think that's the best way and the best position to explain others how to do it. I'm going to build on your answer, Manuel, which is with Outpost is the local factor that comes into play, right? It's how you can do all that locally, in country, with low latency, close to you. And when you mix both of them, I think the cocktail is explosive in a good way. I think we've got the right recipe to drive innovation and to make sure that we add value to our common customers. And Manuel, if we look at returning the question in a way, right? If you look at your own customers today and prospects that are going to be customers tomorrow, institutions in Portugal or for short, right? What can they expect from NOS to take full advantage of the power of Outpost right now running over there?
Well, first of all, what they can expect is that they can make much easier decisions in the sense that when they consider migrating to AWS cloud, well, they do not have to make any trade-off in latency, performance, whatever, because we've made those decisions completely simple for them. And also for companies already in AWS, as we have some customers together working already on AWS, basically they can now take advantage of the better performance, lower latency that we can deliver to them, and the integration of both worlds. The second is that a lot of customers are, and especially customers that are already working with us in other areas in telecom projects, they're working with AI incentive applications like voice to text or text to voice or image processing. And those applications already in customers' call centers or already in customers' operations, they can easily migrate and go to cloud, because now this infrastructure allows for this secure, the full stack that AWS offers, plus, again, the performance that Outpost allows them. The last one is that, and that is particularly relevant for us and for our future, is that we expect all of our customers to embrace fully the 5G opportunity. And with the 5G opportunity and the multi-connectivity, the real-time video processing, all the myriad of applications that are going to require very, very high performance security, this is the critical piece that is going to allow them to have the best of both worlds, which is to have the very ultra low latency of NOS 5G network with the full power of computing that the AWS cloud offers them. So I believe you cope all this with what you were saying, Miguel, which is you can do all this and worry about your business and worry about your applications rather than worry about how your infrastructure is going to react to that. NOS can offer the end-to-end path of the service layer to ensure that the go-to cloud and the operation within the new hybrid cloud world is done in perfect safety and is done taking the most advantage of the functionalities of both the networks and the cloud environment. So I think it would be a good time for you to leave a challenge to the Portuguese companies and institution, so that they can also think about what AWS has to say to them. Do you want to leave a challenge?
Wow. Let's go. Let's share a challenge for the Portuguese companies here. Look, you know, Manuel, that since AWS opened in Portugal in 2018, we actually are very committed. We are very committed to the country, to the society, and to the economy of Portugal. We multiplied by 6 the size of the business, the size of the team in just less than 18 months. And we continue to invest in Portugal. This is a proof of that, right, together with you. The goal here is to support these companies that you mentioned to transform themselves, right? And we always talk about companies of all sizes, all businesses, all industries, all verticals. But I want to emphasize and special energy helping small and medium businesses, right? At the end of the day, for Portugal, is about 98% of the business over there, is 98% of the jobs, is 98% of the society, the economy, right? And being such an important part of our economy, really, it's important that gets transformed as well, and we help them to do that, right? I think in the companies that are coming, there are not going to be easy times. It's going to be difficult for us with the financial and economic crisis that is coming. We all have a responsibility to take. You are doing that, Manuel, today, and your company is doing that. We're trying to do that as well. And the challenge, answering your question that I want to leave the companies in Portugal with is to take the responsibility as well to use the infrastructure that you put in at the service to come with brilliant, innovative ideas that they can transform themselves. And not only that, but they can also actually capture opportunities for their own business in Portugal, in Europe, and around the world. That would be the challenge.
That is, I think, is a challenge accepted, and I think we'll both have news for SMEs pretty soon to communicate in a further webinar. I would just like also to ask you if you would like to leave a challenge for NOS, which I think is one of the not so many telco partners that AWS works with around the world. So what would be a challenge for NOS?
Well, it would be too pretentious for me to leave a challenge for your organization, Manuel, when you're being successful and running the business in such an efficient manner. If I would have one request, probably it would be in line of what I mentioned before, right? This is a bold move, what you're taking right now. It's a forward-thinking move, and it requires courage, it requires persistence, and it requires thinking long-term. It requires a lot of focus and determination, and just showing that. And my request would be to keep it up. We need to celebrate successes when they come. We need to look at the challenge as opportunities for us to improve together. I'm sure in no time we're going to be looking back to this day and we'll realize that this has been a defining moment for a partnership and also on how we create value for our customers, our common customers in Portugal. So I couldn't be more excited, quite frankly, Manuel, leaving you this challenge that, by the way, is a shared challenge. So we are more than happy to collaborate with you on that.
Thank you very much, Miguel, and most of all, thank you and for your personal efforts and for the commitment and effort of all the AWS team in bringing this outpost to Portugal, which I believe is such a very important moment for NOS, for Portugal, and I think for AWS as well. So I would say, let's go to cloud together.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning. Thank you so much, Manuel.
Thank you.